Don't you dare ask us to cancel our plans again. We've had these Elton John tickets for months, my mother shouted, her voice bouncing sharply off the sterile walls of my hospital room. I sat there in stunned silence, clutching my phone with shaking hands. It was Christmas Eve at Las Vegas Medical Center. My 2-year-old twins, Ethan and Emily, played quietly in the corner, while a nurse named Valerie checked my vitals. Pain radiated through my abdomen, twisting and stabbing like a knife, but what cut deepest was the cold indifference etched on my mother's face through the video call. My name is Natasha Wilson, I'm 33 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been an afterthought in my own family. My younger sister, Jessica, the golden child, could do no wrong, while I was met with indifference, even in moments of crisis. And now, with emergency surgery looming and no one else to call, my parents refused to watch their only grandchildren because their concert took priority. The doctors had just confirmed internal bleeding. I needed immediate surgery. My parents' only concern, however, was not my survival. It was missing a night with Elton John and spending Christmas Eve with Jessica. When I begged them for help, my father's response sliced through me more brutally than any scalpel ever could. You're becoming a real nuisance, Natasha. We're retired. We deserve to enjoy our lives without your constant problems. I'd been supporting them financially for 3 years, ever since they took early retirement, $2,500 every month, like clockwork. Even after James died, I told myself it was what family did, but in that moment, as tears slid down my cheeks and pain clenched my body, I saw the truth. I had been giving love and loyalty to people who saw me only as an inconvenience. Valerie squeezed my shoulder gently. My friend Olivia is a professional nanny. She works with kids who've been through trauma. Let me call her. The twins were too young to grasp what was happening. They'd already lost their father to a drunk driver 6 months ago. The thought that they might lose me too, and end up with people who saw them as burdens, was unbearable. Yes, I whispered, please call her. That was the moment I decided to finally sever the toxic ties that had bound me for so long. As I ended the call with my parents, memories surged. My childhood had been one long shadow cast by Jessica's spotlight, my achievements ignored, my milestones minimized. When I graduated with honors, they celebrated her local commercial instead. When I got married, they complained about the venue. When the twins were born, they came once and left, muttering about fussy babies. James had been my safe harbor through it all. We'll build our own family, he used to say, and we did, until he was gone. Even after losing him, I kept paying my parents' bills. I thought it meant I was a good daughter. Now, lying in that hospital bed, bleeding and alone, I finally saw how foolish that hope had been. An hour later, Olivia arrived. She was exactly as Valerie described, warm, calm, and immediately at ease with Ethan and Emily. As the surgical team prepared me for the operating room, I asked Valerie to hand me my phone. With trembling fingers, I canceled the automatic payments to my parents and sent a final message. I will no longer be providing financial support. My children and I deserve more than being your afterthoughts. Do not contact me again. As the gurney rolled toward the oar, pain still slicing through me, I felt something new, freedom. The surgery was long but successful. I spent 5 days in recovery, drifting in and out of consciousness. Olivia stayed with the twins, caring for them like they were her own. When I finally checked my phone, it was flooded with missed calls and texts from my parents and Jessica, outrage, demands, and pleas for mortgage money. Not a single message asked about my health. My father's last text said it all. You can't just cut us off like this. We've planned a cruise next month. The tickets are non-refundable. Jessica's messages were different. She was confused and worried. They told me you were just having a minor procedure. What's really going on? They'd lied to her, so I told her the truth. Her response came quickly, full of shock and regret. Oh my God, Natasha, I didn't know. If I'd known, I would have been there. I'm so sorry. I believed her. Jessica wasn't cruel, she'd just been raised in the comfort of being the favorite. Maybe now she would finally see them clearly. After I was discharged, I made changes. Olivia became our part-time nanny. I updated my will, ensuring the twins would never end up with my parents, and I blocked their numbers, keeping a cautious line of communication with Jessica as I gauged her sincerity. The $2,500 I once gave away each month now went toward real security, for my children and for me. It wasn't just financial liberation, it was emotional survival. Lying in my bed that night, the twins sleeping soundly across the hall, guilt and fear still lingered, but so did something stronger: pride, self-respect, a sense that, for the first time, I was choosing me. Jessica texted again. I just had a huge fight with mom and dad. I'm staying at a hotel tonight. Can we talk tomorrow? Maybe I wasn't entirely alone after all. 2 weeks later, as my strength slowly returned, Olivia arrived each morning to help with the twins. My clients were understanding, my children were safe, and my home finally felt like mine. Jessica visited, too, no longer the golden child, just my sister, trying. One evening, as we watched the twins laugh and build towers with blocks, she whispered, "They always made it sound like you were the one who pulled away. I didn't see it then." Her voice trembled with something raw and honest. For the first time in years, I felt a small, cautious hope, not in my parents, but in the life I was finally building on my own terms. Then came the knock at the door. I had been half expecting this moment. Through the peephole, I saw them, my parents, standing stiffly in the hallway. My mother clutched her designer purse like a talisman, her lips pressed into a strained smile. My father stood beside her, arms crossed, impatience carved deep into his features. I hesitated, heart thudding in my chest, then opened the door just wide enough to speak. "What do you want?" My voice was calmer than I felt. "Natasha, darling, we've been so worried," my mother began, her syrupy tone immediately setting my nerves on edge. "You've ignored all our calls. We just had to make sure you and the twins were all right." "We're fine," I said flatly. "Now, if that's all." "It's not," my father cut in, pressing lightly against the door. "We need to talk about this ridiculous financial situation. The bank called about our mortgage. We had to dip into our cruise fund." The sheer audacity of it nearly made me laugh. No questions about my health, no concern for the twins, just money. "I told you I'm cutting financial ties," I said evenly. "I meant it." "But sweetie," my mother pleaded, voice trembling at just the right octave, "we've come to rely on that money. Your father and I built our lives around your commitment to help us." "My commitment?" I echoed, a bitter laugh escaping me. "I was sending you money out of guilt, not obligation, and while I was being wheeled into emergency surgery, you were worried about concert tickets." My father's face tightened. "That's not fair. We had plans." "Plans more important than your daughter's life?" I shot back. "The doctors told me there was a chance I might not survive that night. Did either of you even ask if I made it out of surgery alive?" Their silence answered everything. "We made one mistake," my mother whispered dramatically. "Are you really going to punish us like this?" "This isn't punishment, it's consequence," I said, my voice suddenly steady, almost serene. "You've shown me exactly where I stand. I'm done pretending otherwise." "We're your parents," my father snapped, trying to reclaim control. "And I'm a parent too," I countered, "which is exactly why I'll never treat Ethan and Emily the way you've treated me." Right on cue, Emily toddled into view, clutching her stuffed giraffe. My mother's demeanor shifted instantly. "There's my precious grandbaby," she cooed, crouching down. "Grandma brought presents." Emily, uncertain and shy around these virtual strangers, instinctively backed toward me. That decided it. "I think you should leave," I said quietly. "When I'm ready to talk, if I'm ever ready, I'll let you know." "But the money," my father began, "is no longer your concern," I finished, closing the door firmly. The next morning, they returned with reinforcements. Aunt Patty, she'd always styled herself the family peacemaker, smoothing over decades of dysfunction with a soft voice and guilt-laced reason. "Natasha, honey, be reasonable," she called through the door I refused to open. "Your parents are struggling." "They managed their lives just fine before I started helping," I replied. "They chose early retirement knowing they didn't have enough." My mother chimed in, panicked. "We made those decisions because you promised to help us. We've had to cancel our cruise, and now we might lose the house." Their words, once heavy chains around my neck, now sounded hollow. I'd offered to help temporarily, but over time, my support had magically become permanent in their eyes. "Mom, Dad, I'm recovering from surgery and raising 2 toddlers," I said firmly. "This conversation is over." I walked away, leaving their knocking unanswered. That afternoon, the first shot of retaliation landed in my inbox, a group email from my father to our entire extended family. In his version of events, I had abandoned my aging parents after they had sacrificed everything for me. Not a word about the concert, not a word about the surgery. But the response wasn't what they expected. My cousin Michael was the first to reply. "Uncle Robert, didn't you just buy a new boat last month? And Aunt Diana, wasn't that a new diamond bracelet at Thanksgiving?" Other relatives piled on. Some messaged me privately. Aunt Patty called later, voice softer. I didn't know about the surgery, she admitted. They told me it was just a routine checkup. Jessica was firmly on my side now. Together, we drafted a simple, factual reply. I recently underwent emergency surgery. My parents refused to help with my children because they had concert tickets. I've chosen to prioritize my recovery and my kids. The support was overwhelming. Michael's wife brought home-cooked meals. A second cousin I barely knew offered free babysitting. Jessica started spending weekends at my place, bonding with Ethan and Emily. Valerie connected me to a support group for young widowed parents, and for the first time since James died, I didn't feel entirely alone. Meanwhile, my parents' financial house of cards began collapsing. Jessica discovered their overspending, a second mortgage for the boat, a drained retirement fund, a botched investment scheme. Their struggles weren't about survival, they were about maintaining a lifestyle they could no longer afford. They'd be fine if they sold the boat and timeshare, Jessica told me, still stunned. They just don't want to. Their messages grew more frantic, less polished. Gone were the guilt trips dressed as concern. Now they simply begged. We never thought you'd actually cut us off. We assumed you'd calm down and start paying again. That was the truth of it. They'd never believed my boundaries were real. While they unraveled, my life slowly knit itself into something new. The support group gave me connection. Diana, a real estate agent I met there, helped me explore moving to a better neighborhood. I even started a small side business designing memorial websites, something meaningful born from grief. Then, 1 month after my surgery, my parents showed up again, this time clutching a spreadsheet like a white flag. We need $144,000 to save the house, my father said bluntly. I let them in, not out of fear or guilt, but because I finally had power in this conversation. What about selling the boat? I asked, settling at the dining table. We'd take a loss, my father snapped. And the timeshare? The market's terrible, my mother whined. Besides, those are our retirement luxuries. I almost laughed. Luxuries you can't afford. We could afford them with your help, my father retorted, his voice hardening. It's the least you could do after everything. This time, I didn't flinch.
We've done so much for you. What exactly have you done for me? I asked quietly. The question hung between us like smoke, impossible to ignore. Just then, the twins wandered into the living room. Ethan clutched his favorite toy truck. Emily babbled cheerfully, clutching her stuffed giraffe. My parents' faces softened instantly at the sight. There are our precious babies, my mother cooed, reaching toward Emily, who immediately shrank behind my legs. They don't know you, I said simply. You've seen them 3 times in their entire lives. That was your choice. That's not fair, my father protested. We're busy people. Too busy for your only grandchildren. Too busy to help your daughter through emergency surgery, but not too busy to ask for money, I said evenly. I think that says everything. My mother's expression crumpled, though whether it was real emotion or her usual performance, I couldn't tell anymore. Without your help, we'll lose everything, she whispered. I lost my husband, I replied, my voice steady as stone. My children lost their father. We survived. You will too. 3 months after my surgery, reality finally caught up with my parents. To avoid foreclosure, they sold their house, the sprawling 4,000 square foot lakefront property they'd once flaunted like a trophy. Jessica kept me updated. They had downsized to a modest condo, sold the boat at a loss, and unloaded the timeshare for a fraction of its original cost. They're telling everyone you abandoned them, Jessica reported one evening, sipping tea at my kitchen table. They say you broke some promise of lifelong support. I almost laughed. Let them talk, the truth speaks for itself. And it did. Word of their behavior had spread quietly through the family. Even my father's sister, who'd always defended him, called to say she finally understood why I'd walked away. Meanwhile, my own life had begun to flourish. With Diana's help from the support group, I bought a small 3-bedroom house in a friendly neighborhood. The mortgage was lower than my old rent. Ethan and Emily had their first backyard, and their laughter filled spaces that once echoed with grief. My memorial website business was growing steadily, and for the first time, my work felt purposeful. Olivia still helped with childcare 3 days a week, and my schedule revolved around my children, not my parents' expectations. Most importantly, I had a community now, neighbors who brought casseroles, friends from the support group who arranged playdates. Jessica, no longer the golden child but a sister, building a real relationship with me and the twins. Even Valerie from the hospital visited sometimes. I had lost a husband and severed ties with my parents, yet somehow, I'd never felt less alone. 6 months after my surgery, a letter arrived, an actual handwritten letter from my mother. I nearly threw it away, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside, the words were unlike anything I'd ever received from her. I've had time to reflect on my behavior. Watching you build a life without us forced me to confront painful truths about myself as a mother. I was jealous of your independence and resented that you didn't need me the way I needed my own mother. When you asked us to care for the twins during your surgery, you were reaching out and we failed you completely. I'm deeply sorry. She went on to describe how they'd restructured their finances, sold their luxury items, and how my father had taken a part-time job at a hardware store. She didn't ask for money or forgiveness, she simply acknowledged what she'd done. I showed the letter to Jessica, who raised an eyebrow. They'd been talking about writing for weeks. Dad was against it at first, but after his heart scare last month, I think it shook him. Heart scare? I asked. Just high blood pressure and chest pains, she explained. He's fine, but it scared him. They're both different now, or trying to be. I wasn't ready to reply. I needed time not to forgive, but to see. That night, I pulled out old family photos for the first time since cutting ties. Behind the posed smiles, I saw patterns I'd missed as a child, the performance, the conditional love, the hierarchy. It was all there, and I was no longer willing to play my assigned role. A year after my surgery, I agreed to meet my parents at a quiet cafe near my new home. When they walked in, they looked smaller. My father's once commanding presence was tempered, his shoulders slightly hunched. My mother wore simple clothes instead of designer labels. For the first time, they looked like people, not the immovable forces that had shaped my childhood. The twins were with Jessica that day. I wasn't ready for a full family reunion yet. We sat in uneasy silence until my father did something I'd never seen. He cried. "I've been a terrible father," he said, voice trembling, "and an even worse grandfather. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I see it now." My mother reached across the table, not quite touching my hand, but close. "We've been in family therapy for months," she said softly. "Jessica pushed us into it. At first, we resisted, but it's changing us." I didn't rush to comfort them. I didn't make promises. Instead, I showed them pictures of the twins and spoke about our new life. For once, they listened without interrupting, without centering themselves. As we stood to leave, my father asked quietly, "Would it ever be possible to know our grandchildren?" I met his gaze, steady and unflinching. "That depends on your actions, not your words. If you're truly committed to change, we can start with short, supervised visits. But understand this, my children will only have relationships with people who respect their mother." Walking away from that cafe, I felt no weight on my shoulders, no fear, no guilt, just clarity. Whether my parents truly changed or not remained to be seen, but I had already transformed from a daughter chasing approval into a woman who knew her worth, her boundaries, and her strength. And this time, I wasn't giving that power away.